Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome back to another episode of Modernize or Die CFML News Edition. It's November 5th, and this week I'm joined by Eric Peterson.
Hello, everybody.
So we're lucky enough to be on site with a customer this week down in San Marcos, California. So I finally got Eric in front of the camera. So we're going to have him help me out here.
Second time.
That's right. We had you at CF Summit.
Special guest.
That's always good to have somebody else here. We get bored of Brad talking all the time, right? Just kidding, Brad.
We love you, Brad.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get on with the news. So the first big event, we had a few people asking about Into the Box. So Into the Box 2020 is happening. It's going to be in Houston, and the call for speakers is now available. So if you go to papercall.io/ITB2020, you can go on there and submit your sessions right now. So why should they become a speaker, Eric? Why did you first become a speaker?
I first became a speaker because I thought it would give me an excuse to go learn something that I didn't know. Give me a deadline, if you will. I definitely did that, and kind of kick-started my Cold Fusion learning. So I really recommend it to anybody that kind of has an itch, thinks they might want to. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be willing to research and put in the time.
Yep, and like I said before in previous episodes, if you're new and you haven't spoken before, let us know if you need some help, if you need, some advice or someone to review your slides or whatever. We definitely want to make sure that you have, a good experience, but also that the session is good for not only you, but all the people attending as well, obviously. So, let us know. One
piece of advice I'd give to anybody thinking you might go on there and see the 50-minute time frame and feel like I could never feel 50 minutes. The good news is if you go short, nobody's upset because there's a lot of fun things to do around the conference, vendors to talk to, snacks or coffee to go get. So if you feel like scared of that time commitment, it's okay. You can take shorter. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I always find that I always end up in preparation having way too much to say, and it's actually hard to cut it down and put it in 50 minutes. So 50 minutes seems like a long time. But when you're up there, the time flies, and I always speak fast, and I still manage to fill up all the time. That's why I usually get right before lunch. That way people can, hang out a little longer. I always expect them just to leave and go get food, but they hang out, so I must be doing something right. So anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit more about Into the Box in a minute, but the call for speakers is now open, so you guys can go ahead and do that. Now, since we got Eric here, it just happened to have a couple of his releases as well. So CB Guard 4.0 was released. So you want to tell us a little about what CB Guard is and what's new?
Sure. CB Guard is a module for your ColdBox applications to add authentication and authorization guards right in your handler as metadata, just with the secured metadata. We really enjoy it. It's inspired some changes in the CB security module too. CB Guard 4.0 actually is all thanks to Adrian Sanchez. Thank you, Adrian. And it adds local handler overrides. So you can put functions right in your handler to handle those authentication failures and authorization failures. So really nice feature. Thank you, Adrian.
Yep, that's pretty cool. So yeah, we use CB Guard a lot. And yeah, it's a great little tool. And if you've ever done, permissions-based stuff in your app, you'll love how simple this is. So definitely check it out. It's worth doing. And the 4.0, it's a major because there's a little bit of backwards compatibility, you said?
Yeah, I dropped Cold Fusion 11 and Lucy 4.5. It felt like time since, Adobe dropped Cold Fusion 11. So
sounds good. So although there's, obviously a couple changes in there, it's not big and scary. So check it out and go get that. And then another one of Eric's babies just turned 7. So QB7 beta is ready for testing, right?
That's right. You can install it QB@BE. It's quite fun to say 4 letters in a row like that. It is a breaking change again. We dropped support for Cold Fusion 11, which led us to a lot of fun stuff. The docs are completely rewritten and brought up that you're going to love them. It's going to make a lot of things clear. There's a what's new page in the migration guide. but there's something for everybody here. So
very cool. So QB is short for Query Builder. It's based on Eloquent. Are you getting it right?
Yes, Eloquent from Laravel.
Yep. So again, we like Laravel. It's got a lot of cool people writing some cool things there, and so Eric's does his research and brings the best of it to Cold Fusion, and this is a great tool. And if you've ever written a crazy query, this could help you. This could save your life. So we love it. And yeah, it's got some really cool stuff in there. One of the coolest things I thought about the QB7 is that chunking. Right? Yeah.
So if you've ever had to operate on a large set of records, pulling them back from your database into Cold Fusion, you get this big memory footprint. We're talking thousands of rows. The chunk method on QB will let you specify how many you want back at a time, and you can get back 25, do your processing. It'll give you the next 25, so those first 25 can be garbage collected, and so on, letting you process lots of records without that memory footprint.
Pretty cool. So that's ready for testing out there on ForgeBox. So ForgeBox.io, and then search for QB, and get out there.
There's a whole migration guide. I just updated Quick, our ColdBox ORM that uses QB under the hood. It took me 2 minutes. So it is a big number, but it's not a big amount of work.
Yeah. I'll just tell you, we were working on it last night. As we said, we're down here to the client, and he ran the test for Quick, and he was all excited and scared at the same time. When he saw the first result, he's like, oh my gosh, like most of the tests failed. But he fixed one little thing, and then everything passed. So it was, luckily, a simple little change. So, but so hopefully you guys got tests, but it should be a smooth transition. But so QB is ready. Go check it out. So cool. Seems like it's a weekly thing now. Online CFML meetup. Charlie Earhart and the Cold Fusion meetup is back in action. And last week we had our friend Matthew Clemente. He did his guide to writing API wrappers, which was a great session. So if you missed that, you can get that up on the meetup.com/Cold Fusion meetup. But also this week we have another one from Dave Ferguson. And I actually went to a session at CF Summit. Did you go to this one? Or
I did not get to this one.
So you'll be able to follow up here and check it out. But he's basically doing SQL. I learned enough to break everything. So we've all been there, right? We've all done that update without a where clause or something else. So he's got a whole bunch of things in there that'll help you. Talks about query execution plans and everything as well. So he can really dive in and give you a lot of good lessons he's learned the hard way.
I love the fact that these online Cold Fusion meetups are taking off again, Gavin. I remember coming into the community, and this was something I looked forward to. I couldn't quite get to all the conferences, but I could look forward to an online meetup to learn more and to meet people who are using CFML.
Yeah. So, the good thing about these is, basically right now we're at every week. So everyone's on that conference buzz, and all the speakers are coming off and doing those same talks. So if you did miss CF Summit or his session, we can check that out. And so that is this Thursday, but there's a different time. So usually I think they're at either 12 Eastern or 3 Eastern, but this is actually 6 p.m. Eastern. So different time than normal, but definitely worth checking out. And then if you're looking to speak, Charlie's looking for more speakers too. He wants to get this back up to a weekly thing, and we got lots of cool content coming your way. So keep an eye on that as well. Okay, so we've been talking all month about Hacktoberfest, but now it's November, so that's over. So it's pretty sad, but I got my shirt. Did you get yours?
I did get my shirt. Waiting for it still.
Yeah. But we earned it. We earned it. So if you guys missed out, sorry. But if you had 4 pull requests during the month of October, you might still be able to sign up now, because I think you had to complete it during October. I don't know what the sign-up process is like. But it was their biggest year ever. So just some numbers for you guys. Last year, I believe they had 40,000 people that earned their T-shirt. So 40,000 people completed the challenge. This year, they had 51,956. So they almost had 62,000 people completed the challenge. So I think they're giving away 50,000 shirts So there might be a mad rush to get your sign up form in to claim them. I'm not sure, but I know that the logistics of it is pretty crazy. Last year they had a podcast on, I think it was on Syntax FM. They were talking about just the logistics of dealing with 50,000 shirts.
Yeah. I remember listening to that podcast. They talked about how it costs more to ship the shirt to most places outside, like U.S. and Europe, than it does the shirt price of the shirt. So very nice of DigitalOcean to front that bill.
Yeah, and I think Dev.2 was another major sponsor this year too. So thank you both. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to see almost 500,000 pull requests were opened and 154,000 different repositories on GitHub were used.
It's a lot of code.
Yeah.
A lot of code.
So hopefully you guys checked it out. If not, just don't get too jealous of us wearing our new shirts. We'll be showing them off Into the Box next year. And next year, Hacktober, don't forget. It's easy enough to do. Just 4 pull requests is all it takes. So. Okay, so next we're going to start talking about conferences. So obviously we had a few. What do you think about CF Summit and CF Camp this year? Because you got to go to both this year.
I did get to go to both. Great conferences, great crowd. It was really fun for me personally to go to CF Camp and to meet developers from all over Europe. You know, crowds that probably don't usually get all the way out to Vegas. It's a little far for them. So, but you know, the CFML community, it's alive and well. A lot of very smart people and kind people contributing in there. So, had a great time at the conference. Hope I get back. Hope I get to go back to both.
Very cool. So, if you did miss out on those conferences, don't worry, there are more coming. And the next one coming up is in December 4th. So, just under a month now. We have Into the Box LATAM, which is a LatinoAmerica. So, looks like we're going to have a 1-day, 1-track down in El Salvador. So, in San Salvador, El Salvador. And we have a lot of the great Ortus speakers. And we actually have a translator for one, because John is going to be speaking. And apparently his Spanish is not as good as the rest of them.
Spanish is probably better than mine, though. So
a lot better than mine, I'll tell you that much. But so they're going to be, presenting in Spanish. There's a lot of great content. And you can get to the website, latam.intothebox.org. Tickets are now available. They're priced for that area of the country, of the world. So it's really affordable. If you guys are in the area, I definitely recommend it. It's going to be at the Hyatt down there. So definitely check it out. And Adobe is doing their 3rd CF Summit of the year. They have a CF Summit East, which is the government in DC, basically. They have a 1-day, and then they have the 2-day in Vegas with the workshops. And then now CF Summit India is coming up. So December 7th, and which is in Bangalore, which is, I guess the other name is Bengaluru, which is the previous name. We learned that last week because we were trying to figure out where it was. But so the whole Cold Fusion team is going to be there, the Adobe team, and I think it's a 1-day event, but a lot of the same great content from CF Summit and some more Adobe people, because obviously that's where their office is. So I know Luis had a lot of fun meeting the Adobe team and getting to check out their office when he was doing the boot camp training just recently. So pretty exciting. So if you guys are in the area, it's complimentary, it's free, so definitely worth it. Go check it out and tell us what you think.
I mean, look at all these conferences. Basically, anywhere you are in the world right now, there's a Cold Fusion conference close to you. Yep. So, it's pretty exciting.
And so if you can wait till next year, the next one that we got on our list is Into the Box 2020. So that's our conference, Ortus Solutions. We love putting that on, and I think it's the 7th year now.
8th, if I read the website right. So
there we go. I'm wrong. Get used to it. So that one's going to be in the Woodlands, which is just outside of Houston, Texas, on May 6th to 8th. So
now this is objectively the best CFML conference of the year, right?
Yeah, and it's not just us saying that.
Not just us.
Yeah, right. We felt that a long time ago. We had a lot of people come that don't even use cold box products, because the conference has more than just box stuff. So I know Nolan and Tony Junkies, Framework One people came to the conference. They loved it. They said it's the best conference they've been to in a long time, and they keep coming back. So it's a good thing. And a lot of speakers that you see at CF Summit and CF Camp are there too. So
right. And it really has something to offer, from beginner to advanced developers. So whatever your skill level, you'll get something out of Into the Box. So.
Yeah, and that's one thing about CF Summit. There's over 500 people at CF Summit, and more than 250 had never been to a conference before. First Cold Fusion conference, so a lot of their content is a lot more beginner oriented. But that's one thing I do like about Into the Box is you can really dive deeper and get into the weeds a little bit and learn some really cool stuff. So a lot of things I'm using now I never heard of before one of these sessions, and now I don't know how to live without them. So,
yeah.
So very cool. Okay, well, let's get into blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So if you can't get enough of the news and you want to see more news going on in the CFML world, rest assured Pete Freitag's got you covered. He's got a newsletter that he releases, and it's his 34th issue was just released. So I don't know if you've seen this before, but he goes through and does a similar summary, but he's got a lot of content that we don't even touch on as well. So he's deep in the community. Got a lot more security stuff too. But
I saw the latest issue has a dozen more links to blog posts from two people in the community.
Yep.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's got a special section called the Monkey House for Matt Gifford's post.
Great name.
And the Ben Zone
for
Ben.
My goodness. Great job, Pete. That's some good marketing.
Yeah. Well, he challenges Matt and said, well, if you keep writing this way, we'll give you your own section. And so he said, challenge accepted. And he did a good job. He got a lot of blog posts out. And so, yeah, so if you want a summary of the best content out there, we're even linked in there. So I'm not sure if Pete's quality standards have dropped or not, but
okay.
No. So, but yeah, so if you go to tinyletter.com/CFML, you can register because it is a newsletter email that gets sent out. But if you go to the site, you can just click View Archives, and you can see all of his previous ones too. So they're very similar to Peter Cooper's JavaScript Weekly and stuff like that. But This is a monthly thing usually. I'm not going to restrict them to once a month, but roughly once a month is what Pete releases here. So he's almost up for his third year now, 34 issues. So pretty cool. Okay, we have a blog post from I always get his name wrong. Evagoras. So he's got a ForgeBox command box module for creating OSGI bundled jars. So I guess he was running into some issues loading, jar conflicts where, they may have the same path but different versions, and that's always a battle, isn't it?
Yeah, a different log for J version in every different Java library I need to use.
Yeah. So, but he's basically written a blog post there. So it's on evagoras.com. You can check out that. So he's got a module up on ForgeBox for you as well. So if you're running the same issues, definitely cool. And I know Brad retweeted that one because he said about time. I think he's running some of the same battles. But seems like we've got another blog post from Ben Adele too, talking about queries of queries. So I know that we mentioned you last week for giving Brad some harassment on the query of queries, and we've been running that for a while. But I guess Ben watched our show last week and decided to write a whole blog post about query of queries. See,
Ben and I are on the same page here. Arrays are built for these kind of transformations. So.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool that Ben actually went through and looked at his InVision app and looked at all the queries they do, and then gave you all the ways that basically he could rewrite them. So used sort and filter and a lot of the functional programming ways of dealing with arrays. And so if you're looking to upgrade and not use query of queries, he's got some pretty good examples in there. There's one thing I saw though that I know Brad would definitely want to talk to him about was use the CF directory, which gives you back a list of files or directories and whatnot. And then he was using that with a regex filter, which works. But if you're dealing with really big file systems and everything else, I'm not sure if it's just Adobe or just Lucy, but there's one of them that takes a UDF. So if you pass it into the engine, you can pass in a UDF or a closure, and then basically you can filter the files that way. So that way you don't get back that whole array of like 5,000 records before you filter. If you pass in that UDF directly, you can just bring back just a smaller subset. So just like if you were doing a query, you'd want the query to be as confined as possible so you get fewer records back. Using that UDF would be better. And then once you've got that, you can do all your fancy sorting with the array from there. So,
right.
So yeah, because obviously Luis loves streams for everything, and that's one of the things they were talking about the other day is how to use streams. And Brad's like, yeah, that's fine as long as you're using that UDF first, just to bring it back. So pretty cool.
I love the first line of Ben's blog post, which is we were reminded that Cold Fusion is not a query engine. So I think most of us have queries somewhere in our code. That's fine. Let's bring it up to modern standards. It's going to bring it up performance-wise and kind of leave queries behind.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely check that blog post out. And even if you don't have queries, you're lying. You'll still learn something. Yeah. Gregory Alexander has been doing a lot of work on this Galaxy blog, and he actually has a 6-part blog series. So we're linking to the first one here. So he's basically building up this open source blog, and so he's talking about how to make the perfect social media sharing image using Cold Fusion. So he goes through, like I said, he's got 6 out so far. So he talks about different backgrounds and sizes and everything else. If you guys are using social media publishing from your Cold Fusion app, definitely some lessons to be learned there. So go check that out, and that's on GregoryAlexander.com. Good blog post, good series. And another one from Ben. So Ben was talking about serializing a MySQL record set as a set of insert statements using Lucy. So Ben accidentally deleted some data, you said. So he had to go find an old backup file and then pull data out. And his DBAs have restricted access for certain things. So we had to sort of do things the old-fashioned way and work with Cold Fusion and do some work. So it's a pretty good experience if you want to look through that and see some of the steps he was taking.
Yeah, I love blog posts like this to show, one, all of us do this.
Yeah, we're all human.
We've all made mistakes like this. And then 2, just kind of the iterative process we go through to try to bring something up, Yeah. I love blog posts like this. Thanks for sharing, Ben. Okay,
so next on the list, Charlie Earhart, solving an error during a CF update. So failed signature verification. So this one is basically just talking through the update process. I know that these latest updates had an issue where you had to have the most recent update before you could update to this version. And if you tried to do it beforehand, it would give you some interesting errors. So if you guys are updating, definitely read Charlie's blog post here. It's on the coldfusion.adobe.com site. So on the community portal. He has a lot of great content on his normal site too, because this is what Charlie does day in, day out, is help people, with their servers, troubleshooting and stuff. So, if you're going to take anyone's advice, take Charlie's. So, if you're updating, running into issues, definitely check this one out. And then Ben's been working on this Redis key scanner for a while, so he's got another blog post about adding a time to live on all persistent keys in Redis using feature flags with Lucy. So I guess he uses this launch darkly feature flag tool, and he uses it on the Cold Fusion side and on their Angular side. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. But so basically he's got to go put a time to live. I guess he found about 14 million records in Redis that shouldn't be there or something like that.
Sounds familiar. We ran into something about like that with millions of keys that we could clean up too.
Yeah. So
it happens, folks. It can happen to you.
So so this he's got a sort of little series here on these working with Redis here, and built his own little key scanner and stuff. And so he works through adding the time to live there. So if you guys are working with Redis or anything, it's a pretty interesting read. I enjoy Ben's blog posts. As many as he puts out, there's going to be something you'll like too. And then Charlie had a blog post too about converting application CFMs to CFCs. Do you remember this?
I don't.
That's right.
I started with Cold Fusion 10, and they at least application CFC was already there. I didn't even know this was an option for like the first 6 months of coding in CFML.
I forget.
I'm a youngin.
He's a youngin. It's kind of sad sometimes. He's only been doing Cold Fusion for a few years and puts out amazing stuff. I'm like, I've been doing it for 20 and I still only using 6 tags. But anyways, so he's just basically talking about, if you are going to convert from application CFM to CFC, there's a few resources you should look at because there are some gotchas. I obviously have worked in it for a long time. I've got a lot of legacy code I had to convert over time, and a lot of client code that we've converted as well. And so there are a few gotchas there. It's not just a copy paste, that's for sure. So, but the other thing too is there's a lot of benefits you get with application CFC you may not be aware of. It's basically a life cycle in itself. There's a lot of cool pieces to it. So if you're not using it, I definitely recommend you check it out. So go check that article out. That's on coldfusion.adobe.com as well. And I'm sure if you go to carehat.org, you'll find the post reposted there too. James Moberg's been pretty busy. He's been writing a few articles, and one of them he actually talked about the CF document advice he was writing on the Adobe forums was marked as spam. So he was not too impressed with that.
Seems like something Adobe, please look into that one.
Yeah, so
Cold Fusion is not spam.
Yeah, well, basically they're having issues with CF document and a few problems they had with it, and so he was talking about how he used output something to HTML and then use one of those third-party libraries to convert it.
Definitely.
Yeah,
like the WK HTML to PDF.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Yeah. So depending on the size and what features you have in your document, CF document doesn't work for everything, and that's why Adobe actually has 2 or 3 different engines of their own inside CF now. So you can choose which one you want to use for that. So anyway, so he posted onto there. So he reposted his advice on his website, but it's got some interesting advice. So if you guys are using CF document or had issues with it in the past, he's used it a lot. So he's got some good advice there. So
check out that link in the show notes.
Yep. So he's Games Over on Twitter. If you follow him, he posts some interesting stuff. So I definitely recommend that too. Okay. So Charlie has another one here. Basically a fix for the error where Cold Fusion is unable to create an image from the specified source file. So he talks about how that problem may not have an obvious solution, but the CFML image tags and functions except a URL won't follow redirects. So a lot of those tools, if you're lucky, some of them will follow redirects, but most of the time you have to be make sure you're using the right SSL feature, HTTPS or not. But other things like that, you need to follow that up. So nice little simple blog post there, but I'm sure you guys have come up with that error one time or another too. So cool. Well, let's get on to CFML jobs. So as usual, most of these jobs come from getcfmljobs.com. That website pulls in from Indeed and a lot of other places online. So if you're looking for a Cold Fusion job, I would check there first. But the first one we have is Cold Fusion developer for CH Software Consultants in St. Louis. So it looks like the developer will have to do technical analysis, design, construction, code, build, and unit testing of applications. So not a bad little job there. And it looks like we got another one here in Illinois. So senior Cold Fusion developer for American Access Casualty Company. So it looks like pretty full position there. So you'll do research, designing, documentation, software specifications, as well as unit testing and writing code. So looks like a pretty complete job. And lots of different options. And again, getcfmljobs.com. There's a lot of different stuff there and lots of different areas too. I've seen them posting in India, Australia, all over the US. So definitely worth checking out. Okay, so now we're on to the ForgeBox module of the week.
Ta-da!
So I made Eric choose these two since he's our special host today. So let's see what he has to say about our ForgeBox module.
Absolutely. The first one I wanted to talk about is Route Visualizer. ColdBox, as you may know, is built on what we like to call an HMVC platform, a hierarchical MVC. That word is horrible, which is why we say HMVC. What that can do, though, is make it a little hard to find out where your routes are coming from and in what order. The Route Visualizer gives you a nice table that shows your routes, what module they come from, what order they're going to be matched in. So you can know when you put a URL in, where is it going to go. So
Yep. And the cool thing is, too, if you actually have a module which has its own router file, you can see that in the visualizer and then click into it to get into the, the nested routes and everything, too. It allows you to click and run the event right from there. It shows you all the action verbs. So yeah,
Right.
it's definitely a very cool tool, and we use that when we teach our soapbox Cold Fusion Hero to Zero. Yeah,
Zero to Hero.
I always go. Now that I messed it up once, I keep double taking on it. So
you can install it from ForgeBox, but even better, you can install it as a dev dependency. That way, when you deploy your code, you're not going to have it in there.
Yep, very cool. So yeah, it's just route dash visualizer, and that's on ForgeBox. And so far, it's only had about 500 downloads, but like almost 6,000 installs. So
And that's thanks to CommandBox keeping that artifacts cache.
Yep.
So when I install it in my 20 different projects, it's only one download.
Very cool.
Thank you, CommandBox.
I know that my friend Scott Steinbeck was working on that at CF Summit, where if you paste in a URL, it will match the route.
Right.
So Scott, I know you listen to this quite often, so where's that update, bud?
Yeah, get her done.
Yeah, we want to see that. Because that way, you paste in your URL, it'll highlight the
route that's gonna hit.
Yeah, because that can be difficult when you've got a big app and lots of routes. And
so, Scott, we're looking forward to that as a Christmas present. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so next we have our VS Code hints, tips, and tricks of the week. So again, I made Eric pick this one out. So tell us a little bit about this one.
The one this week is called Project Manager, and it is very useful for anybody who works on more than one repo at a time, which is probably most of us. Project Manager inside VS Code gives you a way to quickly switch between projects, folders. One of my favorite features of it is it by default will scan a folder you give it for Git repos and create each of them as projects. So I don't do any configuration. I've just said, hey, I have a code folder. Anything that's a Git repo is a project. And then with a keyboard shortcut inside VS Code, it gives me a list of every project I have. I can type in the name, hit enter, and it either can replace my current project or open it in a new window. So no more jumping around the file system or the terminal even. It's just a simple command from VS Code. Or, this is me, no more having 20 projects in the sidebar at a time that I keep collapsing. It's just one window, one project.
Yeah, I know that the recent bar works, wonders for me until I change, customer, and then I'm like, oh, got a whole bunch more I got to load up. So a couple of our customers have a lot of little microservices and everything, and have them in separate projects or separate repos at least. So definitely cool to add that. So yeah, that's a nice one. It's called Project Manager, and I will not pronounce this guy's name, Alessandro Fernani. But yeah, we'll obviously have the link in the show notes as well, and you guys can go check that one out. It's got almost 735,000 downloads, and it's just a touch under 5 stars. So a good little project there. So with that being said, sad as it might be, but time to finish up our episode here. So we do that by thanking our Patreon supporters. So thanks everybody for those of you that are supporting us on Patreon. And then if you aren't and you'd like to, there's small packages from $10 a month, up until bigger packages where hopefully some of our nicer customers will do. But yeah, it's obviously all our open source projects. I mean, there's a lot of great things out there that we don't charge for. So
right, and even services like this podcast. Gavin puts a lot of time into getting this ready. If you appreciate that, you can look into the Patreon page, see if there's a way you can support that.
Yep. So we will try and mispronounce these names. So I should make Eric do this.
I was worried you were going to do this. Okay. I did not practice. Thank you, Andrew Davis, Brian White, Carl Van Stetten, Dali, Dan Card, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Didier Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Yannick, Jeremy Adams, John Farrar, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamery, Laxma Tirtohardi, Matt Clemente, Richard Herbert, Samuel Knowlton, Scott Steinbeck, VJ, and Yogesh Mathur.
You did pretty good. I think you watched the show enough to learn a few of these.
I know.
Some of them we had to get special videos just for pronunciation on them. So
I probably did mess up those. Gavin will share with me those videos and I'll practice.
Yep. So thanks again for joining me, Eric. It's been fun. I know you enjoy watching the podcast. What do you think being a host? Fun?
It was fun. I usually listen, I'll be honest. But I'd love to come on again. Anytime you need a break from Brad, you let me know.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, Brad and Andrew will probably be back in the next couple of weeks as well. So, but thanks again for coming on, and thanks everybody for watching. So,
see ya.
Have a good week. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.